Κυρίες και κύριοι, είναι μια μεγάλη τιμή και χαρά για μένα με τη νέα ιδιότητά μου σαν διευθυντής του Ινστιτούτου της Δανίας να σας καλωσορίσω σήμερα σε ετήσιό μας. It is, dear friends and colleagues, friends of the Institutes, a great pleasure for me today to be able to welcome you here to our annual meeting, the annual meeting of the Nordic Institutes. I shall be very brief because my task right now is to introduce and give the word to two of our friends, the Ambassador of Sweden, Charlotte Sammelin, and the General Director of Antiquities and Cultural Heritage, Adam-Veleni, who is here. But first I would like the Ambassador to come up here and give your talk. Please come up.
Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends of the Nordic community, I'm very honored to attend here tonight and to greet you on behalf of my Nordic colleagues, Klaus Holm, the Ambassador of Denmark, Jari Gustafsson, Ambassador of Finland, and Frode Overland Andersen, the Ambassador of Norway. Our embassies value the work done by the Nordic Institutes immensely. Their work demonstrates that the archaeological heritage of Greece is also of great value to the Nordic countries. A precious joint venture is also the Nordic Library that was established by the Institutes in 1996. Moreover, the embassies joined forces with the Institutes on various occasions in cultural promotion. And I think that together we have shown how our close neighbor relationship can be powerful outside of the Nordic region. And in Greece we have regularly highlighted the Nordic perspective. And if I may give you 3 examples, I'd like first to mention our memorable journey last year when Athens became the World Book Capital. For us it was logical to seek cooperation with a framework that is natural. The projects that we conducted together and we presented under the name Nordic Narrative in Athens included conferences, presentations and exhibitions. For example, the themes of Nordic crime fiction, the role of public libraries, and the narrations of Nordic travelers to Greece in the 19th and the 20th century. A second example of collaboration within the framework of UNIC is that we this year had the opportunity to work on sustainable cultural management during the European Cultural Week. And lastly, a third example is the yearly celebration of European Day of Languages. Thanks to excellent cooperation between us, a successful digital event took place online this year. And we had a game where participants were invited to solve riddles on the exciting world of languages. Some 1,000 participated in the game last Saturday. Now we live in very challenging times, and we have increasingly become aware that managing the effects of COVID-19 brings disruption, and readjusting is more important than ever. And I think that the event here today, this open meeting, is an example. It is, despite the challenging times, important that we can hold this open meeting. And I wish you, on behalf of all the Nordic colleagues, our also collaborators in the embassies, a very interesting presentation of the Nordic Institute's activities for 2019. Thank you.
Your Excellency, Mrs. the Ambassador, dear directors, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I have been prepared to speak in English, but most of you speak so perfect Greek, but I don't know what to do now, but I'll continue in English because of Your Excellency the Ambassador. From the side of the General Directorate of Antiquities and Cultural Heritage, I would like to thank you for the invitation to participate in today's event, which proves the will of all of us to continue our work together in these very special conditions we are all experiencing. The 4 institutes of the Nordic countries have developed an important and rich number of projects in Greece. Their research throughout Greece has been systematic and multidimensional, covering a wide range of periods and scientific methods, which enriched and expanded the archaeological and historical knowledge in the areas that were contacted. At the same time, their presence in Greece functioned as a channel of communication between the archaeological service and scientists and universities from the Scandinavian countries, and led us to a fruitful cooperation between them throughout the development of joint actions and goals at the research level. Cultural heritage, however, according to modern scientific and social perceptions, is not approached simply as a field of academic and research activity, but primarily as a component of everyday life of citizens. In this context, the Ministry of Culture and Sports looks forward to the cooperation and contribution of foreign scientific institutes established in Greece for the promotion of cultural heritage, the understanding of its historical content by the general public, and its connection with modern social requirements. In closing, I would like to wish every success in the continuation of the scientific work of the 4 institutes and the colleagues who are active in our country under their auspices. Be healthy, have hope, and be creative in this difficult pandemic period. Thank you.
Εξοχοτάτε κυρία Πρέσβυρα της Σουηδίας, κυρία Sammelin, αξιότιμη κυρία Διευθύντρια, Γενική Διευθύντρια Ηχειοτήτων και Πολιτιστικής Κληρονομιάς του Υπουργείου Πολιτισμού και Αθλητισμού, κυρία Adam-Veleni. Χαίρομαι ιδιαίτερα για την παρουσίασή σας εδώ απόψε. Αξιότιμη κυρία Υπουργέ, αξιότιμη κύριε Γενική Γραμματέα, αξιότιμοι συνάδελφοι της Αρχαιολογικής Υπηρεσίας, αξιότιμοι συνάδελφοι των ξένων αρχαιολογικών σχολών, αγαπητοί συνάδελφοι και φίλοι, καλησπέρα σας. Ονομάζομαι Γιάννη Wallensten και είμαι η Διευθύντρια του Σουηδικού Αρχαιολογικού Ινστιτούτου Αθηνών. Δεδομένης της αναστάτωσης που προκάλεσε η πανδημία του COVID-19, πολλές ξένες αρχαιολογικές σχολές αναγκάστηκαν να ακυρώσουν τις προγραμματισμένες για την περασμένη άνοιξη παρουσιάσεις του ετήσιου απολυσμού του έργου τους. Λαμβάνοντας υπόψη την αβεβαιότητα που μας επιφυλάσσει η παρούσα κατάσταση της πανδημίας τους επόμενους μήνες, τα 4 αρχαιολογικά Ινστιτούτα των βόρειων χωρών αποφάσισαν να ενώσουν τις δυνάμεις τους και να παρουσιάσουν φέτος από κοινού το έργο τους για το περασμένο έτος. Ήρθε λοιπόν η σειρά μου, με μεγάλη χαρά, να σας καλωσορίσω απόψε στη πρώτη, στα χρονικά, από κοινού παρουσίαση του απολυσμού του έργου του Ινστιτούτα της Δανίας, του Φινλανδικού, του Νορβηγικού και του Σουηδικού Ινστιτούτου Αθηνών. Και πάλι θα ήθελα θερμά να ευχαριστήσω την κυρία Πρέσβυρα Sammelin και την κυρία Adam-Veleni για την εξαγωγή, για την παρουσία σας, όπως επίσης και στον συνάδελφο, κύριε Mogens Pelt, διευθυντή του Ινστιτούτου της Δανίας στην Αθήνα, που μας προσκάλεσε να κάνουμε την παρουσίασή μας εδώ, στην όμορφη αίθουσα του Ινστιτούτου της Δανίας απόψε. Και θα ήθελα με την ευκαιρία αυτή να στείλω τους θερμούς χαιρετισμούς όλων μας στην κυρία Κριστίνα Βίντερ Γιάκοψεν, τέος διευθύντρια του Δανέζικου Ινστιτούτου, η οποία πρόσφατα επέστρεψε στην έδρα της στο Πανεπιστήμιο της Κοπενχάγης. Τα προσδόκητα σύμβαντα του 2020 μας κάνουν πραγματικά να νιώθουμε το 2019 σαν πολύ απόμακρο. Ωστόσο, υπήρξε και για τα 4 Ινστιτούτα μία εδατική από ερευνητικές άποψεις χρονιά. Είμαστε πάντα ευγνώμονες για τη φιλοξενία της Ελλάδας. Μας τιμά ιδιαίτερα που μας δίνεται τη δυνατότητα να διεξάγουμε την αρχαιολογική έρευνά μας εδώ. Θα θέλαμε να ευχαριστήσουμε από καρδιάς όλα τα τμήματα και τους συνάδελφους που συνεισφέρουν σε αυτό. Εκ μέρους των Ινστιτούτων των Βόρειων Χωρών, θα ήθελα να εκφράσω τις ευχαριστίες όλων μας, καταρχάς του Υπουργείου Πολιτισμού και Αθλητισμού, που μας παραχωρεί τις απαραίτητες άδειες. Ευχαριστούμε θερμά την κυρία Υπουργό Λίνα Μεντώνη, τον Γενικό Γραμματέα του Υπουργείου, τον κύριο Γιώργο Διδασκάλου, και την τέως Γενική Γραμματέα, κυρία Ανδρεαδάκη Βλαζάκη, την προϊσταμένη της Γενικής Διεύθυνσης Αρχαιοτήτων και Πολιτιστικής Κληρονομιάς, την κυρία Adam-Veleni, την προϊσταμένη της Διεύθυνσης Προϊστορικών και Κλασικών Αρχαιοτήτων, κυρία Έλληνα Κοντούρη, και την προϊσταμένη της Διεύθυνσης Βυζαντινών και Μεταβυζαντινών Αρχαιοτήτων, την κυρία Ιουλία Παπαγεωργίου. Στο τμήμα εποπτείας ελληνικών και αλλοδαπών επιστημονικών ιδρυμάτων και συντονισμό θεμάτων διεθνών συνεργασίων και οργανισμών, εκφράζουμε την ευγνωμοσύνη μας στη προϊσταμένη κυρία Κωνσταντίνα Μπενίση και στη κυρία Γεωργία Φακάρου, κυρία Ουρανία Χαραλαμποπούλου και στη κυρία Τίνα Γκουρβέλου, οι οποίες, όπως πάντα, υπήρξαν γενναιόδωρες με τις γνώσεις και τη στήριξή τους. Λόγω των περιοριστικών μέτρων που θέτει η παρούσα κατάσταση, δυστυχώς δεν είμαστε σε θέση να προσκαλέσουμε και ευχαριστήσουμε από κοντά τους συναδέλφους των κατατόπους εφορείων αρχαιοτήτων απόψε. Ωστόσο, θα θέλαμε να υπογραμμίσουμε πόσο πολύτιμες μας είναι οι συνεργασίες σε τοπικό επίπεδο. Εκ μέρους του Σουηδικού Αρχαιολογικού Ινστιτούτου, ευχαριστούμε θερμά την προϊσταμένη της Εφορίας Αρχαιοτήτων Αργολίδας, κυρία Άλκιστη Παπαδημητρίου, και από την ίδια εφορία, την κυρία Αγγελική Κόσιβα. Επίσης, θα θέλαμε να ευχαριστήσουμε την κυρία Κέτη Δημακοπούλου και την κυρία Νικολέτα Βαλάκου για την συνεχιζόμενη συνεργασία στη Μηδέα. Στην Εφορία Αρχαιοτήτων Καρδίτσας, θέλαμε να εκφράσουμε τις ευχαριστίες μας στην προϊσταμένη κυρία Μαρία Βαϊοπούλου, στο τμήματάρχη Κώστα Βουσαξάκη και στην αρχαιολόγη Φωτεινή Τσούκα. Τις θερμές μας ευχαριστίες και στην προϊσταμένη της Εφορίας Αρχαιοτήτων Πειραιώς και Νήσων, κυρία Στέλλα Χρυσουλάκη, και στην ίδια εφορία την κυρία Μαρία Γιαννοπούλου. Στα Χανιά, οι ευχαριστίες μας αποθύνονται στην προϊσταμένη της εκεί Εφορίας Αρχαιοτήτων, κυρία Ελένη Παπαδοπούλου, και στην κυρία Ευτυχία Πρώτο Παπαδάκη, όπως επίσης στη τέως Γενική Γραμματέα, κυρία Ανδρεαδάκη Βλαζάκη. Το Φινλανδικό Ινστιτούτο Αθηνών θα ήθελε να ευχαριστήσει την προϊσταμένη της Εφορίας Αρχαιοτήτων Αρκαδίας, κυρία Άννα Βασιλική Καραπαναγιώτου, τον προϊστάμενο της Εφορίας Αρχαιοτήτων Θεσπρωτείας, κύριο Ιωάννη Χουλιαρά, την προϊσταμένη της Εφορίας Αρχαιοτήτων Ρεθύμνου, κυρία Αναστασία Τσιγκουνάκη, και τέλος την προϊσταμένη της Εφορίας Αρχαιοτήτων Πειραιώς και Νήσων, κυρία Στέλλα Χρυσουλάκη. Από πλευρά του Νορβηγικού Ινστιτούτου Αθηνών, θα ήθελα να μεταφέρω τις ευχαριστίες προς τον κύριο Δημήτρη Αθανασούλη, προϊστάμενο της Εφορίας Αρχαιοτήτων Κυκλάδων, και τους συνεργάτες στο πρόγραμμα των μικρών κυκλαδικών νήσων και στις έρευνες πεδίου στην Άξο. Στη προϊσταμένη της Εφορίας Αρχαιοτήτων Αρκαδίας, κυρία Άννα Βασιλική Καραπαναγιώτου, καθώς επίσης την κυρία Αγγελική Σίμωση, προϊσταμένη της Εφορίας Αρχαιοτήτων Εύβοιας. Εκ μέρους του Ινστιτούτου της Δανίας στην Αθήνα, οι ευχαριστίες απευθύνονται στη προϊσταμένη της Εφορίας Αρχαιοτήτων Έτολα Καρνανίας και Λευκάδος, κυρία Ολυμπία Βικάτου, προϊσταμένη της Εφορίας Αρχαιοτήτων Κορινθίας, κυρία Παναγιώτα Κασίμη, στη προεσταμένη της Εφορίας Αρχαιοτήτων Χανίων, κυρία Ελένη Παπαδοπούλου, στη προεσταμένη της Εφορίας Αρχαιοτήτων Πυραιός και Νήσων, κυρία Στέλλα Χρυσουλάκη, και τέλος στη προεσταμένη της Εφορίας Εναλίων Αρχαιοτήτων, κυρία Πάρη Καλαμαρά, και το προσωπικό της Εφορίας. Γνωρίζω ότι μιλώ εκ μέρους όλων μας όταν λέω ότι ανεπομονούμε ιδιαιτέρως να συνεργαστούμε εκ νέου το 2021 υπό πιο ήρεμες και ασφαλείς συνθήκες. Και τώρα θα συνεχίσω στα αγγλικά τον απολογισμό του έργου του Σουηδικού Ινστιτούτου κατά το 2019. I know I speak for all of us when I say that we greatly look forward to collaborating again in 2021 in a calmer and safer climate. I now turn to the report of the archaeological work of the Swedish school in 2019. The Swedish Institute conducted 2 field campaigns in 2019 in Calabria, Poros and Ermioni, and I start with Dr. Anton Bonje's report from Calabria. In 2019, no excavations were carried out at ancient Calabria. Instead, the team studied finds from the excavations in Area L, carried out between 2015 and 2018 in the presumed area of the settlement of Hellenistic Calabria to the south of the Sanctuary of Poseidon. Most of the ceramic finds recovered in 2015 have now been studied and provide clear chronological sequences that can be associated with the development of the structural environment in Area L. The earliest phase can be broadly dated to the second half of the 4th century BC and first quarter of the 3rd century BC. After this period, a short hiatus occurs, but a new construction phase can be dated to the first half of the 2nd century BC, with subsequent activities stretching into the 2nd century AD. The excavations included an intense program of soil sampling and water flotation. In 2019, the macrobotanical finds from the excavations were also studied by paleobotanist Maria Rosu, who concluded that carbonized olive remains constitute the dominant category of the botanical material. The recorded olive remains from the soil samples can most probably be linked to olive oil production occurring at the Area L complex from the 2nd century BC. Evidence for this kind of production is present through the multiple pithoi that were uncovered in situ at the site, as well as a small press stone and other pieces of potential pressing equipment. The macrobotanical finds thus seem to give further weight to the interpretation of activities carried out in these areas of the building. Furthermore, a geophysical survey was conducted in September 2019 in cooperation with the Laboratory of Geophysical, Satellite Remote Sensing and Archaeoenvironment Rethymno in Crete. Geophysical mapping of more than 6,500 square meters at the site was conducted by Dr. Nikos Papadopoulos, employing handheld and multi-sensor magnetic radiometry and ground-penetrating radar techniques. Both of the methods provided detailed mapping of the subsurface using 5 centimeter sample interval along parallel transects separated by 50 centimeters for GPR and 0.1 until 0.25 meters for the magnetics. The aim was to cover an extensive area surrounding the excavation trench in Area L in order to record features that may potentially be linked to the structural environment uncovered during the excavations, as well as features that may relate to the presence of the nucleated Hellenistic settlements at Calabria. The two methods, GPR and magnetics, were used in a complementary fashion. More than 95% of the areas were investigated with both GPR and magnetic radiometry, which increased the amount and detail of information. The processed geophysical maps were rectified and integrated in a GIS environment for the subsequent analysis and interpretation of the recorded geophysical anomalies. The team encountered, as expected, some difficulties during the survey due to the accessibility of different terraces, the vegetation and trees that existed in almost all sections of the site, as well as the presence of modern structures, the asphalt road and metallic fences. To a certain degree, the above factors resulted in increased level of noise in the magnetic measurements and poor GPS signals, especially below the trees. But despite such difficulties, a number of interesting anomalies relating to potential archaeological features were suggested by the integration of the two different geophysical methods. A large number of features were recorded as part of the GPR survey, specifically in the area to the north of the excavation trench 13 and immediately to the west, providing indication of a continuation of the structural environment uncovered as part of the earlier excavations carried out in Area L. The GPR survey of the modern asphalt road further provided interesting indications of a continuation of structural features from the area immediately south of the sanctuary. Between 2017 and 2012, remains of Hellenistic houses, the so-called buildings I and K, were excavated, which seem to have been partly domestic in function. The recorded features beneath the road seem to form a continuation of houses in this area. The magnetic survey also picked up several features to the north and northwest of the excavation trench. Possible features were picked up by the magnetic survey on the small hill directly to the south of the excavation trench. Scattered cut blocks are visible on the surface of the lower sections of the hill, and the survey therefore suggests that some type of structure may have existed here. The combined GPR and magnetic survey carried out in 2019 thus provide significant new information on different areas of settlement to the south of the sanctuary. The features mapped through both methods seem to reflect the presence of both houses and possible terrace walls in the area, and thus provide important new evidence for the presence of a possible settlement at the site. It can tentatively be linked to the structural environment and phases of activity uncovered during the excavations in Area L. I move on to Hermione, where a brief campaign was conducted in August 2019. The project in Hermione is a synergia between the efforts of the Argolid and the Institute, and I personally wish to thank the director, Dr. Alkesis Papadimitriou, and Mrs. Angeliki Kosiva for our fruitful cooperation since many years now. The 2019 excavation took place on the Bisti Peninsula, where the archaic classical city of Hermione lay. The team, led by Patrik Klimborg, the assistant director of the Swedish Institute, and myself, examined two features identified through geophysical work in 2018, suggestive of cisterns. Neither turned out to be remains of such a construction, however. Instead, excavation gave us two key sets of data for our understanding of the history of the Bisti. Firstly, the evidence of glass blowing suggests industrial activity in the area during later periods. Secondly, artificial stone packings attest to non-monumental, possibly house structures on the Bisti during the classical and possibly Hellenistic period. Simultaneously, Dr. Derek Pittman of Bournemouth University conducted geophysical examinations on the Bisti. This geophysical work continued that of last year's season and was conducted in order to establish the presence of archaeological layers on the Bisti Peninsula. The method used was geopenetrating radar in order to complement last year's magnetometric study. Due to the large amount and the complexity of the data, significantly more processing is needed, and this has unfortunately been slowed down by the current pandemic, and we can therefore only present preliminary results as of now. Area 1 indicated the possible remains of a house. A series of stone-built walls were visible on the surface, inclusive of a possible door, and the GPS survey suggests that the structure is composed of at least 2 rooms of circa 4 meters in width, with a possible hallway 1.5 meter in width. Area 3 was targeted on a semicircular topographic depression that was surveyed with magnetometry in 2018. And that study suggested a potential cut, stepped, semicircular structure around the sheer rock face. The area was investigated again this year, or last year rather, in 2 sections due to the scale and topographic complexity. And this data has yet to be topographically offset, so it's not suitable yet for interpretation, and will have to be integrated in the digital terrain model of Hermione. But the survey does hint at activity in the area nearest to the rock face. Area 4 was focused on identifying any structures in the area to the east of the big temple on the Bisti. The survey did identify a linear structure running north to south across the east of the survey zone that corresponds with a linear rock outcrop on the surface. This is potentially a geological structure, but it is parallel with the temple itself, and it may thus be related. Documentation of a Roman aqueduct was conducted by Patrik Klingborg and Giacomo Landeschi. All known remains of the Roman aqueduct running along the Pron Hill and the north and south slopes of the Prophetess Elias Hill, dated by literary sources to the middle 2nd century AD, were documented using analog and digital methods. Initially, each visible section of the aqueduct was located and numbered, and in total 15 sections were recorded. They were cleaned, followed by manual measuring on the remains, including the inventory of special features, in particular support walls, weeping holes, the water channel, the specus, and the presence of tiles in the masonry, and the general state of preservation. These features were all documented individually, and we expect that the sections modeled in 3D and imported in GIS will allow us to study in the right spatial relation to the different sections of the aqueduct, to reconstruct the original path, and to estimate the percentage of slope throughout all the distance. The field project at Medea is a joint Swedish project under the direction of Dr. Katie Dimakopoulou and with Anne-Louise Charlene as responsible representing the Swedish Institute. The efforts of 19 were focused on the processing of excavated material, and this work was carried out during 5 weeks, focusing on finds from the 2005 and 2006 excavation. Finally, from the Greek-Swedish excavations in Chania, under the direction of Dr. Maria Andreadaki-Blazaki, Eric Hallager reports that no fieldwork was conducted, but work continued successfully on GSI Supplementum 1 to 4, as well as the GSE 6 and 7, so we can look forward to more major contributions to the Chania publication series. And I will now briefly mention some of our other activities. We were very happy to welcome undergraduate students during the month of April in 2019. And we usually target students on a more advanced level, but decided this year to reach out to a new group and broaden our educational scope. And the result was very encouraging. Out of a group of 10 students, after finishing our program, 4 decided to continue specialization in classical archaeology. And in November, we gave for the second time a master-level program comparing ancient and modern democracy. This seminar wishes to stimulate discussion about what democracy is and what we want it to be, the instability of democracy, and other questions that unfortunately seem more acute than ever today. We continued our lecture series, the Athens Greek Religion Seminar, and the Aegean lectures in cooperation with the Aegeus Society. And we even inaugurated a new one on the initiative of our Assistant Director, Patrik Klingborg, Waterworks, focusing on the management of water in the ancient world. Among our conferences, I single out a few: silk in the ancient Greek world and its resonance, with, among other things, included the presentation of a reconstruction of a Roman silk textile, now in the Thessaloniki Museum, and I take the opportunity to honor the late Liana Stefani for her support of this project, and to thank the wonderful staff of the Thessaloniki Archaeological Museum. 2019 was also a year of successful cooperations. The Swedish, Danish, Norwegian cooperation Vikings in the Mediterranean, and the Swedish, Danish, Norwegian, Dutch collaboration on the conference The Greek Case in the Council of Europe. We also continued our stimulating and innovative cultural exchange, Sweden-Greece. Our focus lies on bringing together Greek and Swedish students around a common topic. And in 2019, we focused on textile arts in a project involving Konstfack, that is the Stockholm School of Fine Arts, and the Anatoly Kalon Technon of Athens. 20 students met in the silk-producing city of Soufli to learn about the production and potential and magnificence of silk as a material. The jazz students of the Kerkera Music Department of the Ionian University met both with Swedish jazz group Philip Jer's trio for a masterclass and with Swedish jazz students at the Swedish Institute's guest house in Kavala. During a few intensive days, Greek and Swedish young musicians played together, learned from each other's teachers in preparation for a closing concert. Our idea is to provide a foundation for new networks for young artists, new generations of Greek and Swedish artists. And this was a very successful arrangement, and we still have admittedly weak hopes of being able to arrange such a jazz session again this year. Another novelty of 2019 will definitely continue, albeit in a digital shape, and this is our initiative to present new Greek cinema to a Swedish audience. During 3 dark October Sundays, we presented Greek short and feature films at a popular Stockholm cinephile venue. All sessions were sold out, and we hope to have created a lasting tradition. And this was done in cooperation with the Greek Film Center, the Greek Embassy in Stockholm, the Greek-Swedish Cultural Association, and Greek and Swedish film clubs. Finally, I wish to warmly thank the staff at the Swedish Institute at Athens and the guest house in Kavala, Patrik Klingborg, Eleni Androvic, Katerina Gabieraki, Elisabeth Gullberg, Poppy Kalli, Dimitra Tsiura, Stella and Lia Vlachopoulou, and Vladimir Kaisidis. I'm very proud of our institute and our intensive program, which could not have been realized without you. I thank you for your attention.
Κυρίες και κύριοι, πριν αρχίσω θα ήθελα να ευχαριστήσω την κυρία Πρέσβη και την κυρία Adam-Veleni για τα καλά τους λόγια, καθώς και τους 3 Σκανδιναβούς συνάδελφους μου για την συνεργασία σήμερα. I will continue in English, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Björn Forsén, the director of the Finnish Institute at Athens. Finland was in 1984 the second Nordic country to establish an institute of its own in Athens, the seat of which is located close to the Swedish Institute, with which we throughout the years, also later with the Norwegian and Danish institutes, always have had a good and fruitful collaboration. Our mission is to carry out and promote the study of Greek archaeology, history, language and culture from antiquity until the present day, in addition to which we work on making Finnish culture known in Greece. Contrary to our Nordic siblings, our annual reports always cover the period from May to May, and thus my overview focuses on our work from May 2019 until May 2020. I will begin with cultural events, teaching, exhibitions, lectures, colloquia and publications before finally coming to our fieldwork projects. Our culture program last year was many-sided. Translations of Finnish literature into Greek, as well as Finnish art exhibitions, have always played an important role for us. Here I want to emphasize Lasse Hauerva's poetry collection, Vostok, which appeared in 4 languages: Finnish, English, Spanish, and Greek. It contains short and often humorous poems telling about the Soviet Union and its disappearance. The Greek translation was made by Riikka Pulkkinen. Another important event was Sebastian Bolter's and Terhi Ekebom's art exhibition, This Side, offering impressions of the reality on the other side of the Dream Gate and of a walk through the Ilissos River Tunnel. We also broke some new ground. We did, for instance, a visit to the 5th elementary school of Amaliada in Elis, informing the enthusiastic children about Finland and the Finnish education system. The mayor of Amaliada at this occasion gave the institute a portrait of the former honorary consul general of Finland, Konstantinos Lassarakis, who not only originated from Amaliada, but also played an important role for the founding of our institute. Another new type of event was the first Mainalios Dromos, which we organized in cooperation with the Periferia Arcadias, the Demos of Tripoli, and local Arcadian village associations. We hope that this new road running event will contribute to spreading awareness of the fact that Mount Mainalos, where the ancient Mainalian games were organized, thanks to finds from our excavations, nowadays can be identified with the prophetess Elias, Agios Elias mountain, at the foot of which the modern villages of Arahamitai, Asea, Atheneon, and Kerastari are located. Let us move on to teaching. Except for teaching given in connection with the field projects, we organized in the autumn our traditional introductory course to ancient Greece. The assistant director of the institute, Antti Lampinen, had the main responsibility for this course. The comparative exhibition, 3 European Tragedies, the Civil Wars of Finland, Spain, and Greece, also kept us quite busy last year. The exhibition was inaugurated in Athens, after which it has toured in Madrid, Helsinki, Mikkeli, Hämeenlinna, Kerkira, and Jannina. There are some other visits in Volos and Thessaloniki planned, but they have been cancelled. Our 2 largest lectures are traditionally the one at the annual open meeting in May and the Johannes Sundvall lecture towards the end of the year. The annual lecture was given by Torsten Martin from the University of Trier about recent finds from Kleonai in Argolido, Corinthia. The Johannes Sundvall lecture was in its turn given by Anna Lucia de Agata from Consiglio Nazionale delle Ricerche in Rome, who spoke about gendered identities and material culture in late Minoan III Crete. Apart from these and several other lectures, we also organized a colloquium with the title Approaches to Classical Lands, Travelers, Scholars, Tourists, the proceedings of which for the time being are edited and prepared for publication. Speaking about publications, I have the pleasure of being able to announce the appearance of 2 new volumes in the series Papers and Monographs of the Finnish Institute at Athens. First out was the 4th volume of Thesprotia Expedition, which concentrates on the influence of empire on this region during the Hellenistic and Roman periods, followed by Apologists and Athens, the proceedings of a colloquium organized by Gunnar af Hellström. It is now time to turn to our fieldwork projects. Last year we conducted work at Fotike in Epirus, on the island of Salamis, to the southwest of Rethymno on Crete, and finally in Arahamitae on the Peloponnese. Photike is a Roman colonia and medieval bishopric see, located to the northwest of modern Paramythia. The Photike project is a synagogia between Yannis Houliaras and Georgia Pliakou of the Directorate of Antiquities of Thesprotia and myself, running from 2019 until 2023. The aim of the project is to collect all previous information about the poorly known Photike, as well as to map and date the remains of the town with the help of surface survey, geophysical prospection, and excavations at places of special interest. A hoard of 20 bronze figurines was during the late 18th century found to the northwest of Paramythia. These figures were sold to Catherine the Great of Russia in St. Petersburg, quite close to Finland, after whose death 14 pieces ended up in the British Museum. Here you can see a bronze mirror case depicting Aphrodite and Anchises, the head of Apollo, as well as figurines of Neptunus, Castor, Venus, and Alar, the upper right corner. That is a Roman guardian deity, most commonly protecting single households. The whole set, which dates to the mid-2nd century AD, originates from a lararium or Roman household shrine, assumably located in or very close to Photike. Beginning from the late 19th century, Roman grave monuments, statue bases, altars, and inscriptions have been found in Photike. The inscriptions have been collected and partly published in the Thesprotia Expedition publication series. Especially impressive is a Dionysian sarcophagus of Attic craftsmanship in the left lower corner of the 2nd century AD, found inside a mausoleum of which nothing has survived until today. Remarkable is also the fact that a total of 4 inscriptions referring either to the procurator or the praeses of the Roman province of Epirus, or to officials working for him, have been found in Photike, seemingly indicating that at least part of the provincial administration was located there, or that the town was used as a place where provincial meetings convened. The only studied monuments of the town are 3 Byzantine basilicas. The oldest face of Polyxeni and Panagia Lambovitra goes back to the 6th century AD, whereas Aia Fotini is of Middle Byzantine date. This being the case, one of the main aims of the Photike project is to throw light on the Roman town. We have now behind us 2 seasons of surveying and geophysical prospection. Within the site there are several springs, in addition to which it is crisscrossed by a couple of deep ravines. The ravines have brought along thick layers of sterile soil that nowadays cover part of the Roman remains, thus making it impossible to spot them by walking on the field, on the surface, or by geophysics, such as, for instance, this Roman building that only is visible in a ravine profile covered by several meters of sterile soil. Based on density distribution of finds, the town can be located roughly in between of the 4 known basilicas, covering an area of about 50 hectares, constructed on a series of terraces falling towards the south and demarcated in the north by a steep mountain slope. One of the main roads of the town entered it at Polyxeni and exited at Agios Athanasios in the east, being the main road leading from the harbor at Igoumenitsa towards Dodona and Molossia further inland. Several fields to the south of Lambovitra have yielded graves, probably having flanked another main road leading towards the south. The very center of the town is unfortunately covered by dense and impenetrable forest, as you can see in this slide. However, tract 484 yielded interesting finds. It is a totally flat field with a great view towards the south, supported by well-built terrace walls in the southwest corner. Geophysical prospection conducted under the direction of Nikos Papadopoulos of Fort at the University of Crete revealed two square 25 times 25 meter structures, possibly open courtyards surrounded by a peristyle and with a smaller building in the center of the southwest courtyard. West of this structure, there seems to follow a large open area delineated in the south and possibly also east by a wall. Here you can see a GPR map of the southwest of the squares, where you can see very clearly the building in the middle of it. It's a different kind of method, geophysical method. The finds from the field mainly date between the 1st and 3rd century AD, including amphorae and fineware plate, parts of brick columns with either a diameter of 20 or 40 centimeters, tegule mamate, and a piece of a water pipe. Some of the finds clearly originate from a bath, whereas the amphorae, the larger columns, and the surprising find of a knee of a life-sized seated male marble statue point towards another function. I will here refrain from speculating what we might have found. In order to tell more about this apparently very promising and important field, we need to open some trenches, something we hope to be able to do next year. The Salamis project is a synergia between the Directorate of Antiquities of West Attica, Piraeus, and the islands, and the Finnish Institute at Athens, concentrating on mapping the harbour town of ancient Salamis, which is at Ambelakia Bay. The project directors are Stella Risulaki and Jari Pakkanen, who have reported on the fieldwork carried out in 2019. The detailed recording and photogrammetry of the previously excavated areas was completed. These include the city walls and towers of the west and northeast sector of the town, two areas with ancient houses, and the sanctuary of Bendis. The southern half of area A4 was recorded in 2019, next to which further work was carried out at the northeast tower in A1. These areas are highlighted with red in this slide. The house remains in A4, where this year documented using three-dimensional laser line drawing with total stations and photogrammetry. The new three-dimensional documentation gives a detailed picture of the current state of preservation of the remains and can be compared with original excavation documentation and combined with the data from the geophysical survey carried out from 2016 to 2018. Photogrammetry is currently the most common choice of 3D digital architectural documentation for cultural heritage, due to the low cost of hard and software. However, deriving accurate linear representations of the features from the model is challenging. In direct refractorless total station drawing, the choice of how to draw the features is made already in the field and not in the post-processing phase. The Rethymnon hilly countryside archaeological project is carried out under the auspices of the Finnish Institute at Athens and under the direction of myself and Anna Lucia de Agata from CNR in Rome. The aim of the project is to investigate an area located to the southwest of modern Rethymno in order to form a picture of the diachronic development of human presence and ecology in this previously virtually unexplored region. During our first field season, we concentrated on the central plateau around the modern village Agios Konstantinos. Most of our efforts were put on studying a multi-period site located on the hill of Aialias, as you can see here, which dominates the landscape and offers an impressive view towards the north over the plateau all the way to the northern coast of the island. Large terraces supported by huge dry stone walls cover the hill slopes. The summit of the hill is occupied by about 50 times 50 meter large quadrangular platform-like construction, on top of which there is a ruined chapel dating to the 16th century. As you can see from this distribution map, the find density decreases when moving away from the summit of the hill. The finds collected date between the late Neolithic or early Bronze Age and the late Roman period. Of special interest are two late Neolithic to early Bronze Age green stone celts. You can see one here, a handful of obsidian flakes, an example here, an early Minoan 3 to middle Minoan 1 stone pyxis, the lower row, and at least one fragment of a bull figurine. I don't have a photograph of that. Most of the finds date either to the Bronze Age or the mid to late Roman period. The Roman material was concentrated on the summit of the hill, with amphora fragments of combed ware and roof tile fragments being prevalent. Bronze Age pottery was in its turn found in nearly every walked grid. The datable pieces can be attributed to the middle Minoan and or late Minoan period, with a prevalence of cooking and storage vessels, for instance tripod cooking pots and pithoi, as you can see here, and an almost total absence of fineware. A few shards can be assigned to the late Minoan 3A to 3B period, showing a continuity in the use of the site until late in the Minoan period. Geophysical prospection carried out by Apostolos Saris and his team from Fort at the University of Crete revealed a large building covering the summit of the hill and the terrace to the south of it. Interestingly, the foundation course of the northern terrace wall supporting the quadrangular summit is located on the same depth as the anomalies spotted by GPR and seem to belong to this same, probably Roman rural building. It was established on top of a Bronze Age settlement which has suffered badly from post-depositional processes. However, the discovery of a Bronze Age settlement in an inland region southwest of Rethymno, where to date no similar site has been known, is the most important result of our work in 2019. Considering the strategic position, dimension, and long-standing occupation of the site, it must have been of certain importance for the region, well connected to the northern coast and dominating the surrounding territory and its agro-pastoral resources during the second millennium BC, as well as many centuries later. Let us finally move on to the excavations of the sanctuary of Artemis Lykoatis in Arahamita, Arcadia, where the 10th consecutive season of large-scale excavations was organized in 2019. This is a project which throughout the years has been supported above all by the Ella and Georg Ehrnrooth Foundation, the Evgenides Foundation, the Pirmis Foundation, and the last few years also to a large degree by the support delegation of the Finnish Institute. In 2019, we focused on the northern flank of the Hellenistic courtyard building, in addition to which we also opened two smaller trenches to the east and south of the altar area. To the north of the courtyard, we were in for surprises. In area 10D, the southern part of the building was not roofed, as you can see in this picture, but rather functioned as an open area, which later was reused during the Roman period. The roofed northern part was open towards the south, where the roof had been supported by two columns, which you can see in the picture here. In the beginning, we thought that we were dealing with a store, but later we found out that there also was a door opening in the long northern wall. See here. Below these Hellenistic remains, we struck upon an earlier, only partly preserved building, preliminarily dated to the 6th or 5th century BC. This is the first building predating the Hellenistic building phase that we have found. Previously, we have only had some early terrace walls and altars. The situation in area 10E, which is next to 10D, was totally different. Here we excavated 2 rooms that obviously had belonged to a larger complex. This one here. This complex was probably open towards the courtyard in the south, perhaps with a row of wooden columns standing on these flat limestone blocks, whereas in the north it seems to have had 3 rooms. Each room in the complex had a heart, terracotta heart, and a periranterion. The finds of room 20 indicate that it, just as the rooms on the south flank of the courtyard building, had been used for preparation of food and communal eating or drinking. However, it seems as if the southern flank of the Hellenistic courtyard building was constructed first, about 300 BC or somewhat later, whereas the complex of area 10E was not added until about 100 years later. Let me show you some of the more important finds of 2019. First of all, we have a late 6th century BC dedicatory inscription, of which the mid part, unfortunately, is missing. It was written on the lip of a jag, or perhaps a large mag. The name of the dedicator begins with theta, rho, and alpha, and could, for instance, have been Thraseas, whereby the inscription would have read Thraseas inethese, or possibly anethese, tai Artemiti. This Thraseas gave to Artemis. A detailed publication of this important inscription is in preparation by Haralambos Kritsas and myself. Another early find is this bronze figurine of a horse, dating to the late geometric period, that is between 750 and 700 BC, probably originating from a Laconian workshop. I also want to emphasize some of our Roman finds, such as coins minted in Corinth during the reign of the Roman emperors Nero and Marcus Aurelius, as well as a Corinthian lamp of the 2nd or 3rd century AD depicting Ganymedes seated with a shepherd's staff in his left hand. The study of finds from previous excavation seasons continued parallel with the excavation. We invested in a micro sandblasting unit for cleaning iron objects and donated it to the laboratory of the Directorate of Antiquities of Arcadia. Iron objects often receive only little attention due to the bad state of preservation and the difficulties of removing the corrosion. But with the correct equipment, you can create wonders. Here you can, for instance, see the remains of a rare 1st century BC iron lamp as found, and then what it looks like after having been cleaned. Before finishing, I would like to use the opportunity to thank everybody who has taken part to the field projects, especially to the large-scale excavations in Aramitai, which now have been running for 10 years. More than 100 colleagues, friends, students, and local workers have during these years contributed to this project with special skills, hard work, enthusiasm, comradeship, and good mood. It has indeed been a pleasure to work with such a wonderful team. I also want to thank the staff of the Institute and our trainees, who this last year were exceptionally many. Needless to say, most of what is done in small institutes is based on good collaboration, without which we could never have achieved all that we did this past year. Thank you for your attention.
Your Excellency, Charlotte Sammelin, αξιότιμη κυρία Adam-Veleni, Nordic colleagues as directors, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Norwegian Institute at Athens, I join my Nordic colleagues in welcoming everyone here and also online viewers to today's event. In these strange pandemic times, all of us cope as best we can. The Norwegian Institute is grateful to all our collaborators and join in the thanks already expressed to the Ministry of Culture and Sport and its staff centrally and in the efforts and museums. They have all shown great understanding and have stood by our work in Greece, even in these difficult times. Unlike this year, where many of our activities have been curtailed by the pandemic, the Norwegian Institute has been very active in 2019. It is my pleasure here tonight to share the floor with my colleagues from the other Nordic institutes to present some of the work we did last year, albeit in a very abridged form. The major event of the Institute in 2019 was the celebration of our 30th anniversary. We were honored by a large number of attendees from Norway, Greece, and the international research community to several events we had organized to properly mark the anniversary with a week-long anniversary festival, starting with the vernissage of the anniversary photo exhibition, Dehydrated, which I will return to later, and culminating with the annual open meeting at the Acropolis Museum. The week was rounded off with an excursion to Sikkion for our special guests under the guidance of former director of the Norwegian Institute, Erik Østby, who has also previously done work in the Sikkion area. The anniversary celebration lasted for most of the year and included many of the events I will speak about during the next minutes. We were especially humbled by the response and support from our colleagues from other foreign schools and institutes, and also the Athens research community, who came together in large numbers to support the Institute in the year when we were also fighting for our continued existence. The Institute's activities can broadly be divided into three general categories: education, culture and dissemination, and research. In these categories, one very important activity of the Institute, but one seldom seen publicly, is the hosting of diverse visiting groups from Norway. We've had a large number of such groups in 2019, including both from academia and administration, as well as several high school groups. The Institute hosts them in Athens and helps them navigate the world of Greek culture, history, academia, and antiquities. In 2019, we had a full set of courses from Norwegian universities that usually take place at the Institute. Namely, we have organized a course in ancient history, classics, and archaeology in collaboration with the University of Oslo, followed by a course in ancient history from the University of Bergen. In addition, the Institute serves as a testing center for those who need or would like a formal proof of their knowledge of Norwegian language. In 2019, the Institute again organized exams of Norwegian language for more than 50 international students in collaboration with the Department of Linguistics and Scandinavian Studies of the University of Oslo. Education also happens through practice and experience. We were also fortunate to have 2 Erasmus Plus students at the Institute last year, Thea Østerberg from the University of Oslo and Jamie Akers from the University of Bergen. 20 academic events, including seminars, conferences, workshops, book launches, organized by both international and Norwegian scholars, took place under our auspices in 2019. You see most of them here, missing the book launches. Lectures and cultural events come in addition to this event list. The list also includes a recurring event, our contribution to the classics program of the community of foreign schools and institutes at Athens, namely our weekly reading of Pausanias' description of Greece. It is a perfect text for the broad interdisciplinary collaboration that this reading group is. Understanding Pausanias requires not only linguistic competence, but also knowledge of ancient Greek religion and mythology, knowledge of the archaeological record of the sites he describes, knowledge of his literary references, and much more. The other events listed cover a diverse range of topics, including archaeology, gender, modern and ancient migrations, contemporary politics, rhetoric, extremism, classics, heritage, ancient and modern history, literature, and similar. We are grateful and proud of the collaborative international conferences we co-organized with our colleagues and friends from other foreign institutes at Athens. One of those is the conference The Greek Case in the Council of Europe, a game changer for international law and human rights, which we co-organized last December together with our friends from the Netherlands, Swedish and Danish institutes at Athens and the Marangopoulos Foundation for Human Rights. This conference, which marked the 50th anniversary of Greece's withdrawal from the Council of Europe, took place at the auditorium of the old University of Athens building and addressed the background of the Greek case, the well-known human rights violations in Greece during the junta times. A second such event that we co-organized with the Danish and Swedish institutes was the Vikings in the Mediterranean conference last November. Originally an idea related to the Institute's 30th anniversary celebrations, I want to express my thanks both to Dr. Žarko Tankosic for his suggestion to make this a larger collaborative event and for the enthusiasm with which this initiative was met and followed up by my Swedish and Danish colleagues, Drs. Jenny Wallensten and Kristina Winter Jacobsen. Thanks to this collaboration, this became a groundbreaking conference which achieved its goal of connecting the Scandinavian and the Mediterranean scholarly communities around a common topic. This was precisely the underlying motive, as the divide that separates classical and Nordic archaeological communities is rarely breached, to the point that few archaeologists outside of the classical milieu in Norway and other Scandinavian countries are even aware of the existence of our institutes in Athens. So the participants from all Nordic countries and from many international institutions addressed this insufficiently explored topic that directly connects the history and archaeology of Scandinavia and the Mediterranean. The conference took place here at the auditorium of the Danish Institute at Athens, and the proceedings, which are in the works, will be published by the Norwegian Institute's book series. A third such collaborative meeting, co-organized with colleagues from other foreign institutes at Athens, was the second International Samson Atrium Seminar, where we had joined forces with the Neubauer Collegium of the University of Chicago, many of whose members overlap with the American School of Classical Studies at Athens. Samson Atrium was an internationally pioneering Norwegian philologist, papyrologist, and expert in ancient religion and magic. A hope among the Institute's founders was that it would facilitate more Norwegian international research along Atrium's path into ancient magic, papyri, and obscure religious phenomena. The first International Samson Atrium Seminar took place, therefore, in the Institute's youth already, and resulted in the Norwegian Institute's series volume, The World of Ancient Magic. I particularly want to thank Professor Anastasia Maravella from the University of Oslo for making this second Atrium Seminar on ancient magic happen. Also, this conference will result in a volume published in the Norwegian Institute's book series. Finally, we are also happy that the Norwegian Institute has become a regular stop on the yearly calendar of highly respected international graduate schools based in Norway, and we have hosted 2 of those events in 2019. The Nordic Graduate School in Archaeology's Dialogues with the Past, and the Norwegian Research Council-sponsored Interdisciplinary Research School on Authoritative Texts and Their Reception. We were also far from idle when it comes to the matter of contemporary culture in Greece. In recent years, we have tried to build down the distinction between research and cultural activities on our program, as the object of our research is ancient Greek culture. And contemporary culture also needs critique, research, and analysis. Also, our new owner university, the University of Bergen, recently incorporated a new faculty of fine art, music, and design, with whom we look forward to collaborating more in the future. I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Delia Zozaki, who follows up much of our cultural program which attracts a much larger number of people than many of our other open lectures and events. A highlight of our previous year in terms of culture were surely the events connected to the Nordic narratives at Athens. We joined forces with our colleagues from other Nordic institutes and the embassies of Nordic countries in Greece to organize a series of events related to the Nordic identity, and we want to thank our collaboration partners. As part of our Institute Anniversary Festival, we focused further on the works of early Norwegian travelers in Greece and launched a new book in the Institute series titled From Akershus to Acropolis, Norwegian Travelers to Greece, edited by Professor Christine Amadou and myself. The final stage of this cultural research trajectory was another launch seminar in May of a special journal issue on Athens in a journal for the history of ideas. The seminar Athens in Oslo, in which the Norwegian Institute was represented by the two mentioned book editors, focused on how the before-mentioned travelers to Greece brought back to Norway ideas and designs that are still visible in Oslo's urban landscape. As mentioned already, the Institute's 30th anniversary festival also featured a photo exhibition titled Dehydrated on the premises of the Institute, in collaboration with the Athens School of Fine Arts and the Sian Gallery, Oslo. The exhibit of Norwegian and Greek photo artists was curated by Professor Kostas Ioannidis, Eleni Moutsakiti, and our own Delia Zozaki. In November, we had the good fortune to help organize, together with the Norwegian Embassy, novelist Maja Lunde's visit to Athens that included a launch of the Greek translation of one of her History of Bees, as well as several apicultural events over a few days in November of 2019. All in all, based on our rough reckoning, more than 500 people participated, attended, or in some other way engaged with the Institute's cultural activities. Research-related activities of the Norwegian Institute take various forms and also include the dissemination of research results, support for researchers in several different subfields of humanities and social sciences, student training, and similar. As part of this, we have organized a number of lectures at the Norwegian Institute or elsewhere, alone or in collaboration with others. The topics of these lectures ranged from Aegean Neolithic via classics, the use of databases and cultural heritage, to modern history. We were fortunate still to be able to offer the Institute's travel stipend for a number of researchers working on a variety of projects related to Greece, both past and modern. You can see the list of the 2019 recipients on this slide. Sadly, due to the restructuring that the Institute is undergoing and the new regime under which it will operate from January 2021, we are forced to stop awarding the Norwegian Institute's travel grant. We will, however, still try to support our researchers the best we can in other ways. Besides the already mentioned From Akershus to Acropolis book, we also issued another publication in 2019 as part of our Papers and Monographs from the Norwegian Institute at Athens series. The book, titled Institution of Sponsorship from Ancient to Modern Times, is edited by Dr. Yorgos Kakavas, director of the Numismatic Museum at Athens, and the book proceeds from a conference that the Institute has organized in Thessaloniki in 2014 in collaboration with the Numismatic and the National Archaeological Museums at Athens. We organized the book launch at Delphi last summer, and we thank the EFOR, Dr. Nancy Psalti, for hosting us and for participating in the book launch. We also want to take the opportunity to thank Dr. Kakavas for further collaboration in recent years in the wake of the joint book project. Inside the community of foreign schools and institutes at Athens, our most visible activity is our archaeological research. In 2019, we have made some inroads towards the construction of the new storage room, the Apotheki, in the village where our flagship excavation of ancient Tegea is located. This long-term project is a collaboration between our institute and the Directorate of Antiquities of Arcadia, and we thank again Dr. Anna Karapanayotou for the help with this matter. Efforts have continued to analyze and publish the results of the survey on the Byzantine site of Castro Apoliru on Naxos. This important fortress, the possible administrative center of medieval Naxos, has been explored by researchers from the University of Oslo, Edinburgh and Newcastle in collaboration with the Directorate of Antiquities of the Cyclades. The project is co-directed by Dr. Dimitris Athanasoulis from the Directorate and Professor Knut Ødegaard from Oslo. The first phase of fieldwork is finished and efforts are undergoing to publish those results before continuing with a new phase of fieldwork. In 2019 saw a new archaeological project in collaboration with the Effort for the Cyclades and Carleton College from Minnesota in the United States. This archaeological surface survey is co-directed by Drs. Dimitris Athanasoulis, Sarko Tankosic, and Alex Knodel. The Small Cycladic Islands Project, or SCIP, targets the small currently uninhabited islands in the Cycladic archipelago. Regarding small, our official cut-off size is 3 square kilometers. In 2019, our international team consisted of students as well as professional archaeologists. Although these islands are usually marginalized these days and rarely or at all used, they were much more important in the past. Some of them were in antiquity even used as convenient stepping stones, especially during prehistoric voyages in the Aegean. Others were used as places of refuge, ritual, and some were exploited for their agricultural or other resources, including the mineral ones. Many of those traces have left material remains visible to archaeologists. The aim of this project is to use that evidence to reconstruct the diachronic long-term use of such places and their significance for the insular Aegean worlds. The first season of the project tackled the largest cluster of such small islands in the Cyclades around the islands of Paros. In 2019, SCIP systematically surveyed 10 such islands. The methods used during the survey are derived from the well-established methodology of Mediterranean survey. They consist of a systematic walking and collection of surface finds in the landscape using a predetermined transects. The transects and consequently the field walkers were spaced 10 meters apart, collecting along approximately 2 meters wide strip. An additional team mapped archaeological and other visible features, measuring, photographing, and drawing them in the field. The most important features were also recorded using photogrammetry. Areas that were determined to require special attention were collected using a 10 × 10 meters grid, where from all visible artifacts were collected, counted, and examined. Our team has also conducted topographic and environmental study of the landscape, as well as the ethnographic study of the use of the small islands in memory of the local population. In 2019, the project collected and analyzed about 12,000 pottery sherds, 150 chipped stone artifacts, and 124 archaeological features. The features include everything from simple cuts, pits, or other identifiable interventions in the landscape to fortification walls. The finds range in date from possibly Paleolithic to modern times. The best represented phases of the Greek past were the early Bronze Age geometric, archaic, classical, Roman, Byzantine, and modern periods. Our second active field project, the Gurimadi Archaeological Project, or GAP for short, in southern Evia, carried out its second excavation season in 2019. The site of Gurimadi was discovered during an earlier Norwegian Institute project in the area, a survey project. The site was immediately recognized in the previous project as important, based on its location and on the surface archaeological remains. These remains dated the site to a period of transition between the final Neolithic, so about 4,300 to 3,200 BCE, and Early Bronze Age, 3,200 to 2,100 BCE, which is poorly understood throughout the Aegean and especially in southern Evia. The excavations, an independent Norwegian institute's project, began in 2018 with the permission from the Hellenic Ministry of Culture and Sports. In 2019, we continued the excavation of the 2 trenches that had been opened in 2018. The 2 trenches cover most of the top of the Gurimadi hill, which is the flattest area of the site. The excavation in 2018 uncovered massive and complex architectural remains, and the aim of the continued work in 2019 was to clarify the extent of those remains, as well as to define the chronological span of the site's use. We did not open any new trenches in 2019 because the excavation encountered a much thicker cultural layer at the site than expected. We continued finding large amounts of ceramics and lithics, the 2 most significant products of most prehistoric excavations in Greece. The ceramics, however, confirmed the existence of a previously unrecorded face at the site that was hinted at in 2018 and was not at all known from the surface assemblage. The face in question is the later section of the late Neolithic, characterized by the white on dark pottery, similar to the one found on the islet of Saliagos, located between Paros and Antiparos in the Cyclades. For the moment at least, this type of pottery is usually considered as the earliest evidence for persistent human habitation in the Cycladic islands. Despite recent finds of Mesolithic and Paleolithic date in the archipelago, there is still no evidence that this earlier human presence led to prolonged habitation and wholesale settlements on the islands. The finds of this type, previously known in southern Evia only from the Agia Triada cave, make Gurimadi the earliest known open-air site in the region, whose beginnings now reach into the early 5th millennium BC. In turn, this has implication for the question of the Neolithic colonization of the Cyclades and puts southern Evia firmly on the map as one of the possible staging areas for the prehistoric movement of people into the islands. The second most numerous type of finds consists of chip stone, overwhelmingly made of obsidian. This volcanic glass has its source in the Cyclades on the island of Milos, and we have not seen any evidence thus far that any other obsidian source was used by the inhabitants of Gurimadi. As the number of arrowheads continues to increase, Gurimadi is the site with one of the largest, if not the largest, assemblage of this type of artifacts so far in the Aegean. The arrowheads also provide indication for the use of the site, besides being a likely nodal point in the prehistoric obsidian exchange networks. As we have yet to find large quantities of bones belonging to undomesticated animals in the cultural layer, the interpretation of Gurimadi as a hunting camp does not seem to offer the most likely explanation. In 2019, we also found a human skull belonging to a female adolescent, but its origin and deposition history remain unclear at the moment, but possibly indicate the existence of burial contexts in the vicinity. Finally, the necessary groundwork for our new apotheke for the archaeological finds was mostly laid down in 2019. I take the opportunity to thank the municipality of Charistos, and especially its mayor, Mr. Lefteris Raviolos, for providing the space for the apotheke, free of charge. Dr. Simosi of the Effort for Evia for clearing it with the ministry, as well as Fanis Stavroulaki and Evangelia Athanasiou from the Charistos Museum for all their generous help. We at the Norwegian Institute had planned to maintain or even increase the involvement of Norwegian students and scholars in all of these activities as they continue into 2020. This would have served to galvanize the Institute ahead of the previously announced cuts to budgets and activities. However, we were undermined by the COVID-19 pandemic, which for the Institute came at the worst possible time. Nevertheless, the Institute and its staff remain committed to their obligations and will continue to be active in Norwegian and international scholarly communities. Thank you for your attention.
Esteemed guests, dear colleagues, dear friends, it is an honor for me to stand here today, but it is also a little bit intimidating because I'm going to give you a report about the year 2019, a year which ended a little bit more than half a year before I started as the director of the Danish Institute. The Danish Institute is promoting and supporting archaeology, history, research in a broader sense. It is supporting education and people who come to Greece from Denmark for educational purposes, and culture, and not least the exchange of culture. And then as a fourth pillar you could say, that we also put a lot of emphasis on being able to house these people who are coming here doing various activities within these three fields. Concerning at least a sample of educational activities which were performed by the Danish Institute or took place at the Danish Institute in the year 2019. We have training programs for teachers at the Liceo, the Gymnasium, who come here in order to improve their knowledge and also get inspired before going back to the Licea and Gymnasia in Copenhagen or other places in Denmark. Another, and this is a more recurrent kind of, let's say, disciplined activity, that is courses in ancient Greek for Danish students. Most of the students will come from the universities and have only little knowledge of ancient Greek, but it has been successful according to the teachers who are taking care of the course, because they will return much better prepared to continue these activities. That is ancient Greek in this case. And then we have had students, or rather teachers, coming to the Institute on or as part of their visits to Greece. And this is an activity which is coordinated and which takes place in collaboration with the Danish Embassy, so that they have these students, when they come to the Institute, a possibility of getting, let's say, qualified information, balanced information about modern Greek society, politics, and economy from the Embassy, and then a broader background and overview of the place in which modern Greece is placed, that is, in its historical settings, ancient as well as recent history. We have, among our activities, lectures, workshops, and conferences, and those I have here are, let's say, some of the major events. And they are also here because they represent some of the, let's say, intention and ambition we have in performing our activities, namely to make them, let's say, processes and activities of interaction with Greek society or Greek history, the Greek past, but also to interact with our colleagues in Athens, at the other schools, and two of these activities have been mentioned already concerning the Vikings and the so-called Greek case. This was the title of the conference, which I had the pleasure of being invited to, so I had the experience also to see how it unfolded. And I mean, this is a prime example of interaction It was a historical period of significant interaction, the action which Norway, Sweden, Holland and also Denmark took, and it had a significant impact on the course which the European countries as such would take in facing the Greek military dictatorship, but it also unleashed, we would be informed by the various lectures, let's say, attitudes among Greeks who were, and that were many, to say the least, opposed to the junta, and it also had a bearing on subsequent approaches from Europe to places like Portugal and Spain and the processes of democratization. So this is, let's say, the prime example of interaction. And another activity is our publications. Here you have 3 examples of publications from 2019. Of, let's say, if you go to the content of a certain variation, 2 of them are mainly dealing with ancient Greek affairs, whereas the last one is more concentrating on, let's say, Danes and Danes engaging in Greece over the recent history of modern Greece, that is within the last 200 years. And then we have the core activity of the Danish Institute, archaeology, which means supporting Danish archaeologists coming to Greece, supporting them in their cooperation with other schools. We have such example, and not least, of course, with the Greek authorities in their projects. In 2019, there were 6 projects relevant for this report. Some of them were still in progress. We were not yet finished. Others were in the process of publishing or of processing data from their finds. The project which you see on the screen is the project Calydon, and 2019 was the last year of this project, which ran over 5 years, and this period involved the full excavation of a Hellenistic Prostas house in at the lower Acropolis. And I think you can, you have a map here of the area. So we have the Acropolis and the house, which is encircled by a red circle. And these excavations were concluded in 2019, and now the project is first of all concentrating on processing these things. But it is also, and I should say it's also, and this is I'm happy to be able to announce, going to get or start again under, of course, with a new purpose in 2021. It was meant to have started this year, but because of the condition of the coronavirus, it has not been possible. The director of the excavations at the project, which just finished, has been, you have a name, this was Jorunn of the University of Oslo, and it was a collaborative project with the Directorate of Antiquities of Etruria, Arcania, Lefkader, and of course also the Danish Institute. It was directed, apart from Søren Handberg, also by Dr. Olympia Vitaku, who is the author of Etruria and Arcania. The new 5-year project will be funded by the Augustinus Foundation, and it is focusing on reinvestigating Calydon's sanctuary of Artemis Lafria And again, it is going to happen in collaboration with the Directorate of Antiquities of Etolia and Arcania and Lefkada. The reason I mention this project, this future project, is because of its focus on the sanctuary of Artemis Lafria. Because during, and let's see here, I will like to, here in the red circle you will see this sanctuary. And the reason for I mention it, the future thing, is that there was actually an activity going on parallel, if you like, with the larger Calydon project, which was concentrating on this sanctuary. That project was led by Dr. Signe Barfod. You'll get her name here. And she was supported by the Carlsberg Foundation, the Elisabeth Munchsgaard Foundation, and the Sven Fiedler and Wife Foundation, and also by the travel stipends or scholarships by the Norwegian Institute at Athens. It is a kind of revisiting earlier Danish activities in that area. Calydon has a long history in Danish archaeology. And in the 1920s and 30s, there were excavations taking place around Artemis Lafria sanctuary. And in the Danish context, it was, let's say, an important activity. And it was carried out by Frederik Poulsen, who was the then director of the new Carlsberg Glyptotek, which is in Copenhagen, a part of the Carlsberg complex when it comes to museums and foundations, and also led by the Greek archaeologist Konstantinos Romeos and a Danish architect, Einar Dybvad. Then we have another project. It is not active in the sense that there are campaigns going on anymore, but we are still publishing and processing the founds. The project in this case is the Greek-Swedish-Danish excavation at Castelli in Chania, project with a long history, a project which has been a Swedish project, Swedish-Greek project, and which for a period between 1910 and 14 also involved the Danish Institute. But the processing of the finds, in this case by Erik Hallager, is still in activity, still going on actually. You will see some of the finds here from this place. Bones and figurines and architectural remains, and other fine stones, terracotta and faience. And here we have what is found in room B on the table, and then another sample of 4 finds of various materials from the same excavation project, and some pithai and more terracotta and pottery. The project, I just have to watch my time. The project which is still in process is the findings of the old Sikion. It's again a collaborative project between the Danish Institute in Athens and the Greek Ministry of Culture, that is the Directorate of Antiquities of Corinthia, the National Museum of Denmark, and the University of Kiel. It is directed by Dr. Konstantinos Kisas from the Directorate of Antiquities of Corinth and Dr. Silke Myt Frederiksen from the National Museum of Denmark. And it is founded by the Carlsberg Foundation and another foundation, which is very often stepping in regarding or to support our activities, namely the Consul Gösta Engbom Foundation. Gösta Engbom is the Swedish name. He was a Swedish businessman, very active in Greece for decades. He was later also consul for Denmark, so there is this connection again. The main, let's say, and I just need to find my right paper here. The main focus well, the main focus of the project has been to map and identify the urban fabric of the pre-Hellenistic city. And they did their third round of excavation, or their third season, in June and July 2019, supported and assisted by geoarchaeological survey by Chris Hayward from Edinburgh University. And if we go here, you will see, at least on the upper part of the slide, some of their main fields of identification. You have the fields where the trenches have or are in their excavation, in the excavation fields, fields 3, 7, 8, and 9. And here we have one of the main discoveries during the campaign, a classical building on top of archaic graves, which you have here, and you have a location on the map on the right-hand side on the bottom of the slide. We have here some discoveries again from the Trench 3A, and you will see also some of the content which was found in it. Here again, we are at the Trench 3A with the, well, this is a classical grave, and we have here a building complex, which you can see to the left, and then some storage jars and storage rooms connected to the things, to the findings. We have a grave monument here in the northern area of the city, which is among the other things we discovered during the campaigns. And we have more here in details from the same campaign regarding grave monuments in the northern area of the city. And then we have, well, more of it and some of the findings, as you will see on the bottom here. And we have, well, yes, going through the layers, we also came into Byzantine layers, and here you have a Byzantine pithos, which was discovered during one of the campaigns. This is, well, the classical house to your left, on the top here. You have its place, how it is placed on the map, and then we have details from it. The last two projects, I shall try to do it briefly, are of a little bit different nature from the other ones, as they are doing with underwater archaeology. They are to some extent connected. They are, let's say, placed at different places in their processes, and also at different harbors. But well, you will see it's a collaborative project with the Directorate of Underwater Antiquities, University of Copenhagen, and the Danish Institute. It is directed by Dimitris Kourkoumelis and Björn, assistant directors are Paraskevi, Mika and Panayotis Afanosopoulos, and they are also involved or were involved in the ZEA project, I shall mention very soon, briefly afterwards. But the whole idea of what we are getting out of it, which report back, is that that the harbors provided or constituted a vital process or part of Mediterranean history, and that what they found in Lechaeon was that it was a harbor with a very long, continuous, uninterrupted history, which means that it connects to put in a different way, to the ZEA Harbor project. What you see here is a survey of the Lechaeon area, where we are doing the excavations and underwater research. Here we have some stone from the mole, I'm told, structures, and here we are underwater beneath the surface, around the surface of around the stone structures. And here's something which I have been informed is a surprising find, that it is a wooden structure actually, going back, we are still dating it, but perhaps to Byzantine times. So this is one of the recent finds which they are very enthusiastic about. We want to learn more when they are able to process this further. I will mention, or I did mention, the ZEA Harbor project when the researchers in the two places tell me about it. They see, or they say there is a certain interaction. The longue durée of the first one, of the Lechaeon, tells one story. The more abrupt phases in the history of the other one tells another story, but both stories connect, tell something about longevity, of importance of these places, but in two different ways. The ZEA Harbor project is first of all alive through the efforts and the demand to some extent for dissemination in the Greek public. There have been pretty many lectures and also games, if you like, where they try the team involved in the ZEA Harbor project to engage Greek public in various ways in the project. They also activities of a more, let's say, traditional form, like we are practicing here today, lectures about it, but they are able to draw audiences, and they are getting, let's say, questions and other signs of interest. So we're very happy, actually, that we are still active in that way. You will see banners, you'll see, yes, Afanosopoulos, both on the top of the picture and also down here, engaging with the public. They have, and this is the ZEA Harbor project, had put much emphasis on being able to make, let's say, their ideas of what they have found, and they accessible in a visual form to a broader public, and this is a result of such activities which you're seeing here from the ZEA Harbor. This is one of our publications in the broad scheme of things. It is coming out, it came out recently. And here again you have one of these artist imaginations of what it must have been based on the information coming from the researchers. And here again, the same way of reaching out to the public, and the means by which we reach out is here. And well, I would like also to thank the staff of the Danish Institute very much. It has made my start much, much easier than it could have been. I have been informed all the time about processes and what is going on. Kasper is sitting here. Kasper Tormod. We have Niki Buras. We have Kirsten Sørensen. And we have Antonia Palionas, who also has been very supportive all the time when I was here.